Hello and welcome to this week's video. My name is Anuska Taylor and this week we're talking about mouth noises when you speak. Now you might be thinking, I've no idea what she's even talking about. Hopefully all will become clear over the next 5-10 minutes, but I can guarantee after I've spoken about this today, you're going to start to notice it in other people and you might start to notice it in yourself, whether you're listening back to a recording or even in the moment when you're speaking, because we all do it to some extent. We all make mouth noises. So what I'm talking about here is like the lip smacking when people talk, or the loud swallowing mid-sentence, or the tongue kind of smacking against the hard palate, and those kind of popping and clicking sounds that we often hear when people speak. Now the challenge is when we're using a microphone, so we're doing videos like this, or we're on podcasts, or doing any kind of audio recording, or even if we're speaking in a meeting, presenting, and we're using a mic, all of those sounds become amplified because of course that's the purpose of a microphone. So what I want to talk about today is, first of all, why do these sounds happen in the first place? What are the main causes? And then what can you actually do about it? Because it is very irritating for an audience if this is a particular problem for you, if they hear you slapping and slurping when you speak. So we want to try and eliminate it as much as possible when we're speaking, so that people can just focus on what we're saying and not thinking to themselves, I wish they'd stop swallowing so loudly. That's my thing, actually. That's what I notice with people when I'm listening to people speak on like YouTube and podcasts, the sort of loud swallowing. So first of all, why do we all make these sounds to a greater or lesser extent? Well, when you think about it when you speak, and I've talked about this in other videos, when we think about articulation, we have our articulators, which are incredibly important for articulation, meaning the lips, the tongue, the jaw, the teeth, the soft and hard palate. We need all of those to articulate words and sounds in speech. And so there's a lot of moving parts when we speak. There's a lot of things that are kind of coming very closely together, or actually touching or hitting each other every time we say anything. And just to give you an example, I mean, even if you were saying Peter, the P, the two lips come together. Or if you're saying British, B, the lips come together on a B. If you're saying the word sing, that's the back of the tongue and the soft palate coming together. So there's all these moments every time we're speaking where something is colliding, something is coming together. So there's just a lot of moving parts. So what we're actually hearing is sometimes there's bubbles of saliva that get trapped, and that's what you're hearing with the clicking and the popping and the smacking sounds. This sounds very, very strange video. So as I said, we all have this to some extent, everyone, because we've all got saliva and mucus floating around in our mouth. However, it generally is a lot worse when we're dehydrated, which brings me on to the 4 main causes of this and what you can do about it. That's really important as well. And I'm going to separate these into sort of 2 camps. So the first 2 are more health related and the second 2 are more vocal technique related. So first one we've already kind of mentioned, but dehydration, super, super important if you want to avoid mouth noises, because when we are dehydrated, our saliva tends to get stickier and thicker. And often it will mix with the mucus in the back of our throat, so we get this sticky, thick gunk in our mouth or our throat. And then that is just the perfect environment for all these little popping and clicking sounds that we might get with speech. So of course I've done videos on dehydration before, I will put some links below, but just generally speaking, I'm sure that you're all aware of this already. Just start to pay attention to your environment. Do you have the heating on all day, or the air conditioning, depending on where you live? Do you do a lot of air travel? Because we know that flying on a plane is brutal for the voice. So it's just to become aware, and then you can put in some mitigating strategies if this is you. So air travel, just in general, your home and your office, what's the environment like? Do you smoke? Do you drink a lot? Do you drink a lot of coffee? Those types of things. And we also know things like stress and anxiety can also contribute to dehydration. So of course, drinking more water. I've said this before on other videos, it's really, really important you don't just gulp loads of water just before you're about to do a big presentation, that it's actually something that you want to start upping your level of water intake more than 24 hours before if you can, but it's almost too late if you're just guzzling water and then you go on stage, proverbial stage or actual stage. So drinking plenty of water, using a humidifier or a steamer. You can also just go in the shower in the morning and just inhale the steam in the shower. But the voice loves to be moist. It needs to be moist. And I've said this all the time. So a lot of vocal issues are caused by dehydration. And this is one of them, but there's many others as well. The vocal folds have a mucosal lining, like similar to the inside of your cheeks. It needs to be hydrated so that the vocal folds can move quickly with flexibility and agility, which is what they need for optimal, powerful speech. So very, very, very important for all vocal health issues, but particularly with what we're talking about today, dehydration in the voice is going to create more mouth noises. Now, this is kind of 1A, because it's sort of related, is mouth breathing. Now, it's not to say that you can never breathe through your mouth again, because that would probably drive you mad and would be impossible, but it's just to bring a little bit more awareness to, particularly if you know that you're dehydrated, to try and breathe more through your nose, breathe in more through your nose than in through your mouth. Because when we breathe in through our mouth, we tend to gulp in air, and that can have a drying effect in the throat. When you breathe through your nose, when you breathe in through your nose, the air is being filtered, it's also being kind of moisturized a little bit, so it's just much better for you, and you can't gulp it in as easily through your nose. You don't actually need a lot of air for speech, it's just more where you're breathing from and do you have control over it than you need to kind of take in a massive gulp of air, which is never going to do anything great for your throat. So just to pay attention to that, remembering that we speak and we sing on the exhale, so you only need to worry about breathing in. Number 2 is sort of illness and health related, and some people have an excessive amount of saliva or mucus. And I know these are delightful conversations today around saliva and mucus, but it's very important we talk about it as voice users. So if you are someone, and I think someone messaged me on one of my YouTube videos ages ago about this and said they had an excessive amount of saliva when they spoke. Now, I'm not a doctor, so please do go and get checked out, which is actually what I said to him. But just some of the causes that I'm aware of for excessive saliva and mucus can be things like infection, can be allergies, whether it's sort of a food intolerance or something like hay fever. It could also be pointing to acid reflux or asthma. So there's usually an underlying health issue which you need to get addressed. So go and see your doctor if you are someone that has an excessive amount of mucus or saliva production, because that's not really my remit. I'm not a doctor, so please do go and get checked out. But if you do have an excessive amount of saliva or mucus, you're going to have more of that kind of sound when you speak, because there's just more moisture and more fluid floating around in your mouth. So definitely go and get that checked out. Now, the final 2 I'm going to talk about are more vocal technique related. So this is my remit more. And so the first one is, are you opening your mouth much when you speak? And I talk about this a lot with articulation. So just in terms of the clarity and the power in the voice, you have to articulate clearly, but also remembering that there's all these moving parts that are kind of very closely touching and hitting each other. They're already touching each other just to create sounds. So if everything is then squashed together because you're not really opening your mouth, your tongue's not really moving, your lips aren't really moving, everything's just sort of like this, then there's not as much space. And so you're going to get more sounds because there's just less space and everything's hitting each other more. So can you bring more intentional articulation, move everything a lot more when you speak, and notice if that makes a difference? And then finally, and this might seem like a strange thing to say, but also notice what you do between speaking, because this is something that I notice quite a lot. So someone will say something like I am now, and then they'll go and they'll make a noise between thoughts, between ideas, between what they're saying. So we want to become a little bit more mindful when we are speaking, that we don't slap things together when we finish speaking or when we're thinking about what to say next. So we keep that kind of space going when we're speaking. Now, I think it starts with the one before, because if you're not used to moving your jaw, your lips, your tongue, particularly when you speak, then it's going to just feed into everything else. So you really want to get everything moving, and then the final one will be a lot easier. But just to pay attention, what do I do when I'm thinking? What do I do when I'm preparing to say something? Am I making a lot of noise when I'm speaking? So and you know, and I do this too, so it's not a criticism, it's just becoming aware, because sometimes we're just not even aware of what we're doing half the time. Most of the time we're on complete autopilot through our life. So it's just about being aware, and this is why I say to people all the time, listen back to yourself speaking, watch videos of yourself, because you will be surprised at the things that you do and the things that you don't do. Some things that you'll be like, oh, I didn't realize I actually sound really good when I do XYZ. And actually, I didn't realize how much I slap my lips together when I speak. So it's all about awareness. And it's really so you can show up in the most powerful, confident version of you when you speak. So thank you so much. I hope this has been really useful. Please do let me know if you have any questions, if you've noticed this now in yourself, or whether you've started to notice this in every single person that you're speaking to. I guarantee you will start to notice it more if you hadn't already. So please let me know how you go. As always, if you're interested in working with me, all the links are below. I can help you with this. If this is something that you know is a problem, is really hindering you from wanting to put yourself out there more on bigger stages, on podcasts, in the media, etc., I can help you find more clarity. And this is one of the things that is a byproduct of that, because you won't have as many mouth noises. So please do feel free to get in contact. All the links are below, but I will see you next week on my next video. Thank you for watching.